You are now listening to On Radio, the talk show podcast station, bringing you the current events and issues. All information and resources are based on the opinions of the host unless otherwise noted. This podcast may contain some quotations, images, and or excerpts from copyrighted material. These uses fall well within the copyright doctrine of fair use. This is your news report, and I am your host, Tony. Welcome and hello again to all the new listeners and all of my day ones. Big shout out to you all for your love and support and tuning in as usual. This is Let's Talk's news report. I am Tony Williams. Now, we have the Supreme Court in the news today. Now, most of you know what the Supreme Court is and what they do. So, we're supposed to be able to go to them when we have an issue that we need solved. When a lower court or something didn't do exactly what needed to be done, we can always rely on the Supreme Court to have the final say over things. But when it comes to the Supreme Court, they're in the news for declining to hear cases, and some very, what you would think, important cases. So let's get into this. Now, the Supreme Court didn't want to hear a few cases which were challenging legal protections for law enforcement as Congress continues to try to figure out how to handle these excessive force complaints since all the deadly police interactions that have taken place. Now, this one specific one got to me, and I wanted to get into this with you all and see what you think about this and how you feel. Now, one case from Texas and another out of Ohio, in which it was questioned when people may sue federal police for damages for allegedly violating the Constitution's prohibition on excessive force. Now, in 2016, we had a 26-year-old Jose Oliva who endured a violent encounter at the El Paso, Texas Veterans Administration Hospital, where he was injured during an arrest. Now, he was blocked from suing. And I know that has to be kind of disheartening for a lot of people, especially our veterans. They go through so much as is, and they don't get the help that they need already. So this is just one more thing on top of that. Now, Olivia, a Vietnam War veteran and longtime VA patient, underwent 2 surgeries to repair injuries he sustained from this ordeal. The incident, the incident was captured on VA surveillance video, but the recording did not capture audio of the conversation. Now, the officer asked him for his ID, which he replied that he told them his VA card, his ID was in the bin. Now, when we go into different places, airports, the VA hospital, there are checkpoints where you have to put your things in the bin. And this goes for courtrooms and everything, courthouses and all of that. You have to go through checkout. Well, apparently, the officer was not satisfied with that. And for whatever reason, he did not like the answer. So the officers who in fact dispute that account cited Olivia with disorderly conduct. The charge was later dismissed, which tells you quite a bit about this. It obviously was not a big deal, and he really didn't break the law. So why did he have to go through that? Why was he hurt? It leaves so many questions unanswered. Now, The Supreme Court denied the appeal of that federal agent seeking to challenge sweeping legal immunity for police officers. And a lot of that we are going to see more of when it comes to excessive force and the police. Now, the Supreme Court did not explain its decision not to hear the appeals. The Supreme Court declined to take Olivia's case and set a new national standard. More than 24 states are considering their own limits on legal immunity for cops. So, what is this qualified immunity? Well, it's a legal doctrine established by the courts 50 years ago. It affords officers broad protection against personal liability for constitutional violations in most cases. However, it did not create a legal avenue to pursue claims against federal officials. Now, this was done in 1971. We're in 2021 now, so a lot of changes need to be made as far as that goes. Which begs the question, how many cases have the Supreme Court declined to hear? A lot of cases yearly, believe it or not. So not only does the Supreme Court dodge cases on police liability, declining to hear excessive force cases, they also decline to hear Dallas hospital case involving the N-word. They won't hear cases about coal pensions. High Court won't hear a case of Ohio driver killed by police. Or even the Supreme Court declines to hear appeals from former West Point cadet who says she was raped. Missouri court denies hearing a case of man prosecutor deems innocent and declines to hear wrestlers' brain damage cases. So they're declining to hear all of these cases. So what kinds of cases are they hearing? Well, they're hearing Tennessee Supreme Court to hear arguments on school choice program. California Supreme Court will hear appeal that could raise the bar of the death sentence. Military draft. Men's group in ACLU urged Supreme Court to hear challenge to male-only military draft. Supreme Court to hear Mississippi abortion case, which is challenging to Roe versus Wade. They're also willing to hear gun rights cases. And Kentucky Supreme Court to hear coronavirus-related cases. U.S. Supreme Court takes up H&M copyright dispute. It's for a company. Now, Florida Supreme Court to weigh in on major tobacco case. Cigarette companies can get their cases heard. And the last example is Virginia Supreme Court to hear arguments on the future of the Robert E. Lee statue. So they're hearing cases. It's up to you as the listener of this to decide how you feel about what cases that the Supreme Court is willing to hear and what cases they are not. And it also begs the question, well, how many cases are appealed to the Supreme Court each year? The court receives approximately 7,000 to 8,000 petitions for a writ of certiorari each term. The court grants and hears oral arguments in about 80 cases. Out of a year, you have 7,000 to 8,000 being sent to get heard, but they're only listening to about 80 cases. So, for you all who's listening, how do you feel about this? What do you think about this? My opinion is that these cases should be heard. I know some cases that they get sent are common sense. No, we're not dealing with that because, a lower court has already ruled on the case and they did the right thing. But there are several cases to where these lower courts may not have handled it right. Or the verdict in the case was not right. But yet the Supreme Court, who we are as citizens are to rely on to ultimately make the final decision on a case. So are the cases important enough to be heard? Do they feel? What do you all think? Let me know. Thank you for listening. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, comment below and let me know what you all think of this. Are there any cases you all know of that the Supreme Court is not willing to hear that you feel really should be heard? And if you're listening to this on any of the podcasts, leave me feedback. I appreciate it and it is welcome. Let me know what you all think. Your voices and your opinions are important to me and I would like to air them, read them, whatever the case may be. So the big question is our Supreme Court doing its job? Let me know. Until next time. You have been listening to Unheard Radio, the talk show podcast station, bringing you the current events and issues. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my news report. I wish you the best. For more, you can find Unheard Radio on Facebook, YouTube. The name over there is Tony on One, and it is available on most of your favorite podcast sites and apps. If there is a news report that you would like to share, email onOneRadioTalk@gmail.com. Place it to the attention of news reports. Stay safe, take care, and be well. There's always another story.